Chelsea looks to be coming to an end. What impact could that have on potential incomings? West Ham have had a shocking start to the season. Could Mateus Fernandes be the answer to Graham Potter's problems? We'll assess that deal in around 20 minutes' time. And they missed out on Iber Eze a week ago. Will Tottenham find an alternative in time? Could they poach Chelsea target Xavi Simons? A very good afternoon to you at home. Welcome to our chief correspondent, Kaveh Solakul, joins me in the studio. There is only one place to start, though, and that is at Manchester United. An embarrassing defeat to Grimsby Town last night, dumped out of the Carabao Cup on penalties. Andre Onana was at fault for the 2 goals, with questions raised again over his future. Let's just remind you what Ruben Amorim had to say about his keeper situation.
When you play against a 4th division team, it's not the goalkeeper, it's everything. It's the environment, it's the way we face the competition. We know that we are in the moment, everything. People will pay attention to everything. It's going to be massive, every detail. And we show that performance today. So my players spoke for me really loud.
So that's what Ruben Amorim had to say, Kaveh. I mean, he is right to a certain extent. A defeat against Grimsby Town doesn't necessarily just come down to that goalkeeper situation, but it's definitely an issue for Manchester United and has been for a while.
Yeah, it has been for a long, long time. I mean, when they signed Andre Onana, they signed him on the back of one good season he had at Inter Milan. Inter Milan actually got him on a free transfer, but he helped Inter Milan get to the Champions League final, and United had other options, but Erik ten Hag and the director of football at the time decided to sign Onana, and he hasn't been convincing. And there are not that many alternatives for Manchester United at the moment, and we know they've got financial issues as well. I thought Ruben Amorim, after the game yesterday, he was obviously very emotional. He didn't say much about the goalkeeping situation, but again, you got the feeling that he was saying a little bit too much. Yeah. You know, he had his heart on his sleeve again. And I'm not sure that helps Manchester United because they are, even though they're not playing particularly well, there is so much media scrutiny on them. Everything that happens at Manchester United is a big headline. And I think sometimes you need a head coach who just doesn't say very much rather than be emotional and react and say the kind of things that he sometimes says.
Yeah, now one name that has been floated about, not just for Manchester United but Manchester City, is Gianluigi Donnarumma. Is the financial aspect the reason why Manchester United maybe wouldn't go for someone like Donnarumma? Because he would be a huge, huge upgrade.
Look, if you go back to the old days, when Sir Alex Ferguson was manager of Manchester United, Gianluigi Donnarumma would become a United player. Because obviously everybody knows how good United were under Sir Alex Ferguson. Players like Donnarumma would have been queuing up to move to Old Trafford. But times have changed, things have changed. United, I don't think, have the finances to be able to do a deal for somebody like Gianluigi Donnarumma. Also, they can't offer him European football. I think if Ederson was to leave Manchester City, there's a real possibility that he could end up at Manchester City. Manchester City can afford the financial package it would take to sign him. And obviously they can offer him Champions League football as well. I know a lot of United fans would love to sign Gianluigi Donnarumma. I wouldn't say it's totally impossible. Stranger things have happened on deadline day, but there are no indications coming out of Manchester United whatsoever that they're planning on making a move for Donnarumma.
So you don't think they've got the finances to potentially do that Donnarumma deal? Do they have the finances to complete a deal for Sana Lamans, Royal Antwerp player? Could they get that one over the line if they are looking for?
Well, I think that one would be much more affordable financially. There's talk that it could be around 17, 18 million pounds. The player himself, I think, would want to go to Manchester United. He's somebody who is being talked about as a future Belgium #1, but is he ready to play for Manchester United's first team? Is he ready for the scrutiny that will come along from playing for United? I think he's more one for the future. If they were to sign him, I think obviously Ruben Amorim would look at him in training and maybe he would get his chance. But the other problem United have got is because they're not in Europe, and they're not in the Carabao Cup anymore. They're only going to be playing league games and FA Cup games this season.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for Manchester United. Now, European football expert Andy Brassel joined us earlier on Good Morning Transfers. He shared his take on Lammers, but wonders if United should be looking at a bigger name.
The Gigi Donnarumma shadow is not just there because he's 6.5 foot tall. I think you look at Lammers and you think this is another sort of player that if I was him, I'd be thinking, what is awaiting me at United? When I look at similar players, or players of a similar age profile to me who've gone there, have they developed as they should? Have they got closer to fulfilling their potential there? Now, look, Lammers has got everything that suggests that he should be a good Premier League goalkeeper. He's big, he comes for crosses, he's got a decent amount of first-team experience there as well. And United have been interested in him for a while, so this isn't an impulse buy or anything like that. But what happens, he gets there and he has a difficult start. I mean, all of a sudden, you're back to square one. Obviously, Donnarumma was the best goalkeeper in the Champions League last season. Whether he can be that in the Premier League, someone who is not great with his feet, is obviously a phenomenal shot stopper, but it's kind of glued to his line a lot of the time. Does it feel like another potential United disaster if that was something that was going to happen for them?
Right, we've got a little bit of breaking news from Rangers. They have agreed a deal with Girona to sign striker Bojan Miovski. It's understood the initial fee will be around £2.6 million, rising to £4.2 million based on add-ons. Miovski is thought to have agreed personal terms in principle ahead of his medical tomorrow. Right, let's get some more reaction to last night's result. Of course, Manchester United getting knocked out of the Carabao Cup by Grimsby Town in League Two. Jamie Jackson from The Guardian joins us now. Jamie, you were at the game last night. I mean, it's a simple question. Just how bad was it?
Dire. Probably the worst I've ever seen United play, in the flesh in my job as a correspondent. I've covered them since 2012. There was a game under Moyes in the Champions League. They lost 2-0 at Olympiacos, and they were absolutely awful. They stunk the place out. It was very odd how bad they were that evening in Piraeus, which is the port area of Athens. Last night was worse because it's fourth-tier opposition. Listen, Grimsby were excellent. Grimsby actually played, right, how Manchester United should play. Fast, hard, aggressive, passing it around at the back, then moving forward at the right moments, creating chances. There was like a header from Benjamin Sesko right at the end of the first half, and I was sitting there thinking, oh, yes, Manchester United are allowed to attack as well. And that sort of sums up how bad. Yeah, it's the worst I've ever seen the players are saying, sort of 12, 13 years of covering them.
Jamie, I'm going to get on to Ruben Amorim in just a second, but you mentioned Benjamin Sesko there. How surprised were you in that penalty shootout that he stepped up so late and let every other single outfield player go in front of him?
I mean, your question has the answer. I mean, he is the new number 9, the leader of the attack. If he cannot be one of the lead-off penalty takers in that situation, because apart from anything else, does he not want to do that himself? As the new player to sort of show his teammates, listen, he can miss that penalty if he does step up sort of 1 to 5. But the point is, he's taken on responsibility, and that would do a lot for him, his standing, Amorim, whether, as I say, he scores it or not. So I cannot, for one reason or fathom what has gone through his head. And if you are the head coach who's stroked the club, who's invested 74 million pound in this guy, I mean, unless it was under strict instructions from Amorim, don't take it. But I can't believe that either. I mean, what does it say about Sesko to the club, to Amorim, to his players? Listen, it's a snapshot. Hopefully he'll move on and be a lot more positive. But yeah, I mean, it was just very, very confusing. As well as I have to say, and I get it's a superstition thing, Amorim sitting on the bench, I believe it was, rather, because again, I was searching for him on the touchline, where the dugouts were yesterday evening at Blundell Park. It's right below where we sit as the press. I was thinking, where's Amorim at? He's got to be watching this. I kept on scanning, as it went around all the penalties, sort of 10, 11, 12 times, but no, I couldn't see him. And it turns out he wasn't watching. Now, I get, as I say, it's a superstition, but come on, show some leadership. Just stand there. And again, if you lose a shootout, that can happen. But it just seems that is not, in my humble opinion, that is not leadership when you need it most, which is to sort of say, okay, lads, here I am. I'm the head coach. I'm going to watch this with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a weird one from Ruben Amorim. Did you expect him, Jamie, to be under so much pressure so soon into the season?
Kind of did actually, only because I've been round the block so many times with different manager stroke head coaches at United. Then you factor in how bad they were last season. Obviously 15th, lost possibly, arguably the worst European club competition final ever to Spurs 1-0. I was at the last friendly, Fiorentina. I took my son, who's a supporter, so I was there as a sort of punter at Old Trafford. Last friendly before the start of the season, and United were flat. You know, they just were. I mean, that can happen. I get that, but I'm not that surprised at all. I don't see anything in the 8 or 9 months he's been in charge to sort of indicate, yeah, there's progress. Maybe that will happen. I get that he needs time, but how much time does he need? Each club is different, but look at Thomas Frank at Spurs, what he's done in sort of 2 games. I was at the City game last Saturday when, Thomas Frank Spurs did a number on Manchester City at their ground. Amron's had 8 or 9 months, and I'm not seeing, and I'm being polite, not much, too much progress.
Yeah. What about Andre Onana then? He was at fault for the goals yesterday. I mean, Ruben Amorim said, it's not just down to him, but do Manchester United desperately need a goalkeeper? Is that just as simple as it gets?
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line. I mean, take your pick. The first one, he gets beaten at his near post, and the second one, he misses his punch completely. I mean, he's a goalkeeper. He's allowed to use his hands, obviously. I mean, that was. If you're not a United fan, that was hilarious. That was farcical. If you are a United fan or a United player, anyone of a United persuasion, that is, the latest sort of dagger to the heart with regard to the goalkeeper, because obviously Bayern Deer had played the previous 2 games and committed mistakes. So yeah, they need a new goalkeeper, and obviously Senny Lamens, as you've been discussing, as Carve rightly says, I'm not sure he's ready to be chucked in. It's interesting. He's 23. He's not yet played for the Belgium senior international side, which I suggest is interesting. So yeah, Donnarumma for me would be a good option. He's available, but yeah, can they afford it? Everything that Carve was rightly saying earlier, just previously, about whether he'd want to go there now. Because what we're describing here, if you zoom out a little bit, is basically, it's still a bit of a mess. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe, having been in there for, what is it, a year and a half now, certainly a good year. Again, are they really moving forward? Maybe this is the darkest point before the dawn. I like to be glass half full. So maybe, from we're going to have this nadir yesterday evening at Grimsby, and from here on in, they're going to gradually improve. And by Christmas, we're like, okay, we can see it. But so far, you can only go on facts, the evidence of your eyes, the league performance, European competition performance, being knocked out before the transfer window closed of the Carabao Cup. These are all facts, and they're not great.
Yeah, another fact for you, Jamie, is that Manchester United are struggling to get rid of the players that they've got up for sale. And, that's a big thing. There's 3 or 4 of them that you need to get out, but just are struggling to right now.
Yeah, I mean, Garnacho may go to Chelsea. Jadon Sancho, that's gone completely quiet. I mean, he arrived on the Solskjaer, I think, a 74, 75 million pound marquee signing, Europe's next bright thing, and the sort of the black hole or vortex that is players' careers at Old Trafford. He's been sucked into that, sadly, for Jadon Sancho. Rasmus Højlund's another one. Kobbie Mainoo wants to leave. Now, here's an interesting one. For me, Kobbie Mainoo is good enough to start for Manchester United, if they were title challengers, never mind sort of, a side that finished 15 is struggling. I mean, he's class. He's a class player. Started the European Championship final for England, FA Cup winning goal. I don't need to go on too much. So yeah, again, this is a function, or this is sort of an emblem of the sort of situation Manchester United, and they can't seem to. How can you not sell one player in the summer? I'm even for someone who covers the club and has covered the club for so long as I describe, I am baffled by what is going on there. And trust me, there's been messes before.
Jamie, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Right, we've just got a little update from Burnley. They are interested in Benfica midfielder Florentino Luis. Marseille and Roma have also shown interest in him this summer. That's just one to keep an eye on as we get ever closer to Monday's deadline. Welcome back. Big transfer news at West Ham this morning. Matheus Fernandes is having a medical ahead of a £42 million move from Southampton. And Carve, I mean, this is a signing that West Ham desperately needed, didn't they?
I mean,
understatement.
Yeah, they need more as well, not just Matheus Fernandes. I mean, they've been trying to sign him for quite a while. Southampton have been pretty firm, sticking to their guns when it comes to their valuation. And they are getting quite a lot of money for him, 38 plus 3 in potential add-ons for a player I think they signed last summer from Sporting for around £15 million. And OK, he did OK for Southampton, but Southampton were relegated. But I think he's a player who's got a big future. West Ham desperately need more legs, more creativity, more energy, more youth,
more everything,
more dynamism, more goals in their midfield. And I think he won't be the only player who'll be moving to West Ham in the next few days.
Well, obviously, they are spending some of that Kudus money. They got a lot of money for Mohamed Kudus. I suppose the question is, can they afford to bring in more players? Because, like we say, it's not just legs in midfield that this club needs right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to bring in Nkunku Magassa from Monaco as well. He, same as Fernandes, he's only 21 years old. He, I think, is going to be a really, really good player as well. Defensive midfielder, somebody who's young, dynamic, what West Ham need. But the problem is he doesn't have any Premier League experience. But I think he's affordable as far as West Ham are concerned. He probably would cost around £17 million. There have been other clubs who've been interested in signing him. But I think West Ham are pretty hopeful that they will be able to get him. Of course, Edson Alvarez has moved on loan to Fenerbahce, but we're just seeing a change in strategy from West Ham in the transfer market. In the past few windows, they've had a director of football in there. They've been spending big money. Their net spend on transfers has been huge, bigger than some of the biggest clubs in Europe. But obviously, it hasn't paid off, and they've pivoted I think, to a different transfer strategy this summer.
Yeah, well, it looks like West Ham are also trying to bring in another keeper, Carve. That's just weeks after signing Mads Hermansen. It looks like they've gone back in for Botafogo's John Victor. Carve, please explain to me why this has happened.
Look, I think the deal with John Victor is that there's sort of intermediaries working on the deal who obviously want to get him to the Premier League. And they were hopeful that they would be able to do a deal with West Ham. But then I think West Ham decided to sign Matt Hermansen from Leicester City. Now, he has made a little bit of a shaky start to his career at West Ham. I think it would be fair to say that. He's made a few mistakes. West Ham have conceded a lot of goals. It's not all down to him. But I think now West Ham have the opportunity of signing Victor on loan. I mean, he is a very, very good goalkeeper. I think we both saw him play in the Club World Cup this summer for Botafogo. And I think West Ham are looking at potentially bringing him on loan. And I think he would be happy to do that. And he's very, very confident in his own ability. I think his mindset is, give me the chance and I will prove that I can be West Ham's future number one.
So what does this mean for Alphonse Areola then? Is he...
Well, I mean, he came in the other night in the Carabao Cup. I mean, I think he's, you know, somebody who has perhaps been a bit harshly treated at West Ham. But they just looked at their goalkeeping position this summer and decided they needed to make some changes. Yeah. So the window's open for another few days for him as well. Interesting to see what happens to him if Victor comes in.
Yeah, so that's potential incomings. John Victor, the goalkeeper. Now, one player they won't want to let go, having already lost Mohamed Kudus, is Lucas Paqueta. I mean, he's shown at the start of this season how valuable, like someone like him and, I suppose, Jared Bowen are to West Ham. Do they need to sell again, or are they okay as it stands?
I mean, I think West Ham have got, you know, financial issues because of how much they've spent on transfers in the past few windows. So, you know, if somebody was to make an offer for Lucas Paqueta, they would have to look at it. Now, they almost sold him to Manchester City for £80 million before all the issues with the betting allegations that he's been pretty much cleared of. Now, could he go again? I don't think he's agitating to move because I think he appreciates the fact that West Ham stood by him. The club and all the supporters stood by him when he went through his problems. But if they were to get an offer around £60, £70 million, then they would have a decision to make. But of course, they would need to replace him. And how do you replace a player as good as Lucas Packeta? I was speaking to somebody who is sort of involved in a potential deal for him, asking them the question, could he potentially move in the next few days? And they just said, never say never.
Gosh, West Ham fans, how would you feel about that? Still a few days to go in the transfer window. You look at the players they've brought in, Todibo, Diouf, Hermansen, Kyle Walker-Peters, Callum Wilson. Is that enough? Is that an inspiring transfer window for West Ham fans?
No, I mean, as simple as that.
Yeah.
Judging by the way they've been playing, it's not enough. They need to sort out their midfield ASAP. I personally think they need to sign another striker as well. They look very, very short at the moment, but let's just wait and see what they do in the next few days.
I mean, that man behind you, Carve, Graham Potter, how much pressure is he under already? Because actually, if you look back to the end of last season, it wasn't great then either.
The only thing I would say is that West Ham, generally, if you look at their history, they do stand by their managers. It takes a long time for West Ham to act to remove a manager. And let's just give Graham Potter some time. Let's give him some time to shape his own squad, to get in the players that he wants, and then give him, until Christmas at least. I would be very, very surprised if West Ham were going.
Though. That's the thing. You think they will?
I think they will. If you look at the history of West Ham managers, very, very rarely do West Ham sack a manager, and I'm not getting any sort of information that they are thinking of making a change.
Even if they're in danger to go down. People are talking about that.
Well, that's
No?
hypotheticals.
I mean, that is hypothetical, but it is a really poor.
I mean, they have gone down with much better squads than they have at the moment. Because if you look at the teams that were relegated in the past, they had some fantastic players in those West Ham teams.
Yeah, absolutely. But they do have one incoming. Mateus Fernandes is on his way to West Ham. Stay with us, though, on Sky Sports News. Chelsea looks set to be busy. If Christopher Nkunku leaves, will that see Alejandro Garnacho come back in? We'll find out in a few minutes' time. Welcome back to Transfer Talk. Let's get to Chelsea now. It could be a really busy few days. I mean, when is it not busy at Chelsea, Carve? It always is. But Christopher Nkunku looks like he is finally on his way out of the club, which I think is a sale that needed to happen. But Chelsea have recouped a lot of money this summer, haven't they?
Yeah, I think if he moves to AC Milan, which we're now expecting him to do, I think it means that Chelsea have made around £300 million from selling players this summer. That is if you include all the potential add-ons and bonuses. But they are taking a bit of a loss on Nkunku because they signed him, I think, what was it, 2.5 years ago from Leipzig for £52 million. He's going to Milan in a deal that's potentially worth £36 million. He's got a very good agent, super agent, Pinny Zahavi, who only deals with the biggest clubs in the world. So he's got him a very good move because he's moving to Milan. And I think it's good news for Chelsea because they needed to sell him because we know they need to sell players before they can sign more players. And also, he was on pretty big wages at Chelsea. So they needed to get his wages off the books as well. For my money, actually, watching him play this summer in the Club World Cup, I thought he looked fitter than ever.
Yeah.
And when he played, he made a bit of a difference. So if I was a Chelsea fan, I wouldn't have thought it was the end of the world if he stayed because he's been training with the first team squad as well. But we know that Chelsea needed to sell him because there are other players they want to bring in.
Yeah, I think it's just a case of it just maybe not being the right fit. I think when he came into Chelsea, he got injured straight away. He looked really promising in pre-season and then got that huge injury. Then Cole Palmer came in and they're a similar position and just sort of never quite found that flow again. And I think maybe going, you know, back to a European club is where he'll find his form again. But there's definitely such a player in there. We've seen little glimpses his time at Chelsea anyway. Chelsea can make even more money if they let go of another one of these players. This man, Nicholas Jackson. I mean, a couple of big clubs interested, Bayern Munich being one of them. We saw Alejandro Garnacho turn down Bayern Munich. Surely Nicholas Jackson isn't going to do that.
Well, I think it's a big decision for him to make because if he wants to leave Chelsea because he's not getting enough game time, why would you go to Bayern Munich where you would not be starting ahead of Harry Kane in most games? But of course, Bayern Munich are Bayern Munich. But Bayern Munich do have financial issues. We heard, I think, a few days ago from their sporting director on Sky Germany saying, look, we can only afford loan signings at the moment. Now, the problem is that Chelsea ideally wants Jackson to leave on a permanent deal or a loan plus a hard obligation. And I think at the moment, Bayern Munich is still sort of trying their luck a little bit, trying to get him on loan. Our colleagues at Sky Germany are very, very bullish on this one. They feel that he's definitely going to end up at Bayern Munich. But I think from Chelsea's perspective, they still want to see what happens with the Isak situation at Newcastle United. Does he stay or does he go? Because if he stays, then Newcastle wouldn't be in the picture for Jackson if they are. But if he leaves, would that mean that suddenly Newcastle United have got 110, 120, 130 million pounds to play with and they're looking for not just one but two strikers?
Yeah, it's like a big domino effect, isn't it? Well, Ashley Williams joined us on Good Morning Transfers a little bit earlier this morning and thinks Villa would be the better fit for Jackson, though he isn't so sure about his game on the pitch.
Why is he raw at 24? I don't like.
I think maybe raw in like the position,
right? Okay.
Because he's not.
But
only come to Chelsea and played as a.
I think he's raw anyway. Like technically, yeah. I don't really get it. Would he suit like an Aston Villa who need to replace some of the players they've lost? Probably, yeah. I think, you know, with a little bit of confidence, he could probably do a good job in the number 9. He hasn't filled me with loads of confidence playing for Chelsea. He sometimes looks like, I don't know, a little bit clumsy. But yeah, he's another player just similar like what we're talking about this morning that needs to go and find somewhere, because as football players, you train all week and you get it, you do all your work and you prepare. And if you don't have a game on the weekend, your week is just gone and you're miserable. So football players want to be playing and knowing that they're in the manager's thoughts to start. So for Nicholas Jackson, yeah, it will be a good move for him if he does get out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Nicholas Jackson ends up come Monday evening. Will it be Chelsea or will it be another club? Obviously, you mentioned there, Carve, that, you know, Chelsea now, that the fact that they're going to sell Nkunku, it looks like, to AC Milan, that they can now bring in other players. Fermin Lopez, Alejandro Garnacho, Xavi Simons are the three that three attackers that Chelsea have been linked with, but it looks like the man in the middle, Alejandro Garnacho, is perhaps the most likely to come after the Nkunku sale.
I think it's likely that Chelsea will end up getting maybe two of these three players.
Which two?
Yeah, if Nkunku and Jackson
Yes.
definitely go, I think two of these three players could come in. I think the most likely one is Garnacho. Yesterday, there were big developments in talks between the clubs. I actually think Chelsea have been a little bit cute all summer because they know that Garnacho has got issues at United, doesn't really have a future there. They know he wants to move to Chelsea, and they've really been trying to get him on the cheap, let's be honest. Because, you know, he's not a £25 million player.
Yeah.
If you look at the current transfer market and the prices being paid, he's an Argentina international. He's still only 22. Personal opinion, I think he is worth what United are asking for, £50 million. But obviously Chelsea, every pound counts.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get that fee down. But I think he will end up being a Chelsea player. The other ones are a little bit complicated. Xavi Simons, I have to sort of lean a little bit on our colleagues at Sky Germany because they're talking this up as being a sort of potential hijack situation developing because they say that he's not at Leipzig anymore. They believe that he could be in London or he could be on his way to London.
Xavi Simons.
Yeah, where is he? You know, let us know if you see him in London. But they're also saying that they believe that Tottenham are poised to try and snatch him from Chelsea's grasp. Sorry, I'm being a bit dramatic there.
That's fine.
But I think Tottenham's position is that they feel that Chelsea are the front runners to sign him. He's a player of interest to Tottenham. It's no secret that Tottenham are looking for a number 10. So I wouldn't sort of get too carried away with it. But obviously, Sky Germany have very good contacts on the German side of any potential deal.
Another thing, Carve, is obviously a centre-back situation after the Levi Colwill injury. Maresca was pretty damning about that defensive situation, basically saying that the centre-backs they have can't do the job that Levi Colwill does. So do they go back into the market? Only 4 days to go now. They've known about the Colwill injury for a little while. Can you see them signing a centre-back?
I can't.
No.
I can't. Every sort of time we're asking the question or we're looking around to see if Chelsea are making moves for a centre-back, the answer we're getting is that there's nothing happening. The only way that would change is if a senior first-team centre-back was to leave Chelsea in the next few days. Then they would get a replacement. But I can't really see anything happening on that front.
Yes, interesting times at Chelsea. Just 4 days to go until the window closes. Right, time to bring you our first Premier League manager of the day. Brighton boss Fabian Hertzler has just been speaking to the media.
Your gut instinct with a week to go that's Brighton done regarding any more signings, any incomings this window?
I have a feeling. Yeah, sometimes I think it's not so clever to share always the feelings you have in the public. But overall, like I always said, I'm very happy with the squad.
Yeah.
I'm in daily exchange with Tony, with Paul, with David. So overall, I'm very pleased how the process went so far, and let's see if there might be any more changes.
And obviously, crazy things can happen in the last week, and clubs can get desperate and make big offers. But are you 100% confident that come September the 2nd, Carlos Baleba will still be a Brighton player?
Yes.
Yeah.
If there's a number more than 100, I even would say more than 100. So
Fantastic.
I'm
Good to hear.
confident.
That was Fabian Hertzler talking there. Now, it could be a pivotal few days at Newcastle United. Of course it would. Carve, where do we currently stand with Alexander Isak?
I'll keep this short. We stand where we stood yesterday.
Nothing has changed in terms of Liverpool maybe preparing a second bid, nothing like that.
But I mean, preparing a second bid, all they have to do is pick up the phone and speak to Newcastle. They haven't done that yet. And also Newcastle need to sign 2 forwards, and they haven't done that yet either. And time is running out for the situation to change. I think, unless you're a Liverpool fan, you're probably thinking it would be good for the Premier League and it'd be good for football if Isak stays at Newcastle, because you see how good this Liverpool side are and how much business they've already done this summer. Would you really want them to get even stronger by signing arguably the best striker in the Premier League at the moment? And there's also the possibility that they could go back in for Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace as well.
Yeah, I mean, Given there is only 4 days to go into the window, like you say, all Liverpool have to do is pick up the phone and talk to Newcastle. And do you think basically it could get done and is going to get done between now and Monday? Do you think Liverpool are going to pick up the phone and call Newcastle?
I think when Liverpool made their first offer, which was at the beginning of the month, they were, I think, pretty clear. The noises coming out of Anfield was they were not going to go back in and make another offer unless there was some indication from Newcastle that Newcastle were willing to negotiate or Newcastle's stance had changed. And we haven't had any indication so far that that has happened. And also, you know, can you see a situation where Liverpool pay £150 million for a player? I think that's a non-runner. If Liverpool were to make another offer, I think maybe some of the add-ons would change or maybe the structure would change. But the most important thing is that Newcastle have to sign 2 forwards before they would even consider letting Isak leave.
Yeah, we'll get onto that in just a second, actually. Maybe potential replacements for Alexander Isak. But there is plenty to consider for all parties. But this morning on Good Morning Transfers, both of our pundits questioned why Liverpool would spend such a fee at this point of the window.
Why would Liverpool want to buy him? I understand he's one of the best strikers, if not the best striker, if talking about his all-round game in the Premier League. But if I was them and I'd seen how the first couple of weeks of the season have gone with Ugo Ekitike, why am I dropping 150 million or even 120 million on Alex Isak? I'm not, because I'm thinking to complement what they've already got, I probably need a wide forward who is happy to start from the bench, someone who can contribute goals, someone who can give them punch off the bench. I'm not looking for Alex Isak, to be perfectly honest. Say if he does get this move to Liverpool, when's he going to be properly fit by? October? He's not trained with the team since the middle of July. He's not ready.
I'm with you on it. I'm starting to think, obviously, you're never going to turn down a world-class player, which Isak definitely is. But do you want to pay so much for someone at this point in time when you started the season so well?
So say if you had the option now, you can go and buy Gay or you can buy Isak.
They need. I think that's what the start of the season has shown. Probably Liverpool fans and Arne Slot is actually we need something at the back more than we need going forward.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It looks like Newcastle will go to £60 million. For Wolves is Jurgen Strand-Larsen, but he's actually seen as a replacement for Callum Wilson, who left Newcastle on a free in the summer, rather than Alexander Isak. But David Ornstein has just reported not that long ago that Jurgen Strand-Larsen has politely informed Wolves of his wish to make the Newcastle move. However, the Wolves chairman, Jeff Shee, has told Strand-Larsen that it's not possible this window. They've had no new bid yet, but Molyneux stances that all offers are to be rejected. Carve, is it just a case of it being too late in the window now for Wolves to let such an important player go?
I love the fact that he's done it politely. That's a nice touch. Look, you can understand from his perspective. Newcastle United have come in for him. There's the opportunity to play in the Champions League. But he's somebody who's got a good relationship with Wolves, a good relationship with the fans as well. He's aware of the situation at Wolves. They've already signed Matheus Cunha this window. This late in the window, it would be a big blow for them to sell him because they don't have time to bring in a replacement. But I like the fact that he's been polite about it and he's been diplomatic and he's doing things properly. But on the other hand, for Wolves, this is a player who, a couple of weeks ago, they triggered the option to sign him for £23 million and potentially they could almost, well, not quite, but almost treble their money on him if they were to sell him to Newcastle. But I think if Newcastle wanted him, they should have moved earlier. But obviously, a lot of things have been happening at Newcastle this summer. I think so far, I read somewhere that they have had 8 bids for 5 different forwards turned down this summer.
Oh, yeah, not good.
There's still 3 or 4 days to go.
Yeah, very true. Is this Wolves stance not only just because it's late in the window and they can't find a replacement, but the fact that Jurgen Strand-Larsen, with his 14 Premier League goals, came off the bench to score a couple in the Carabao Cup the other day to send Wolves through? He could genuinely be the difference between them staying in the Premier League, which is the money that equates to. Andy Brassel was talking about it on Good Morning Transfers, is 100 million. No one's going to pay that. So that's such a big difference between them staying up or going down.
While you're asking that question, I just pick up on something you said, is that they're saying they don't have time to replace him. And you've said it, I've said it, Wolves have said it as well. But actually they do have time to replace him. A club like Wolves are always going to have targets, potential players that they can bring in. We know they are a trading club. And I thought it was interesting that Vitor Pereira the other night said, we want to keep him, but he said, this is football, this is a business, every player has his price. So I think if the worst was to happen and he was to leave, we're not in a position where Wolves wouldn't bring anybody in. I'm sure they do have players that they could bring in, and who knows, they could turn out to be even better than him.
Yeah, it does look like Wolves are standing firm on Jurgen Strand Larsen. Right, so much more still to come on Transfer Talk. Crystal Palace are looking to replace Bere Eze. We'll have news on potential incomings at Palace next. Welcome back. It was a humbling night for Russell Martin as he saw his Rangers team crash out of the Champions League following a 6-0 drubbing against Club Brugge, losing the tie 9-1 on aggregate. For more, we can go live to Ibrox and join our reporter Gordon Duncan. Gordon, Russell Martin was apologetic once again last night for his side's performance 9-1 on aggregate. Is his future in doubt?
Well, it's not an official short-term doubt at boardroom level, because the news coming out of the club this lunchtime is that he does retain the support of the Rangers hierarchy. There have been lots of calls for that to not be the case. You look at the angry reaction in the stadium last night over in Bruges. There were chants suggesting that Russell Martin should not be the Rangers manager anymore, and that's putting it politely. There was a banner here on the gates at Ibrox before the Rangers players even arrived back, and of course social media, which is often quite an extreme place to look, is awash with serious criticism of Russell Martin. So it's safe to say his future is in doubt in the eyes of the Rangers fans, but in terms of those who employ him, those who manage him at boardroom level here at Rangers, they still give him their backing. So it's going to be a very interesting period coming up for Russell Martin. It was, you called it humbling last night, it was embarrassing, humiliating for the Rangers fans, and many more stronger words out there as well. And the big games just keep coming, because he's going to have to welcome Celtic to Ibrox on Sunday, and if he was to lose that, the level of toxicity that's already out there would go through the roof.
Yeah, Gordon, I was just thinking, I wonder how the hierarchy's opinion will change if they do lose that old firm derby badly to Celtic. How key do you think could the last few days in this transfer window be for Russell Martin and Rangers?
Yeah, well, things are moving on that front. Scottish football fans will remember Bojan Miovski. He was a very good striker here for Aberdeen, scored 44 goals in 98 games. Well, Rangers have agreed a deal to sign him, a £2.6 million initial fee, rising to £4.2 million with add-ons. He moved to Girona over in La Liga. It hasn't quite worked out for him there, scoring only 4 times, and now looks like he's on his way back to Scottish football, this time in the blue of Rangers. It's going to be one in, one out in the striking department, because Hamza Igaman, he's passed his medical ahead of a £10.5 million move away to Lille. You'll remember he was the player who refused to come on at the weekend, saying he was injured. Russell Martin made a tongue-in-cheek comment that he would have no problems passing his medical at Lille, and that has indeed been the case. So one in, one out in the striking department. Still question marks perhaps over the future of Cyril Dessers, Nicholas Raskin, and big question marks over the future, the long-term future anyway, of Russell Martin. But he's safe for now in the eyes of the Rangers board, and onwards to Celtic on Sunday, which you can see live on Sky Sports.
Thank you very much, Gordon. Right, to Crystal Palace now, because Villarreal winger Yeremy Pino is set to undergo a medical at the club today. Palace have agreed a deal with the Spanish club worth up to £26 million. So Carve, they're spending that Eze money already.
Looks like a really good deal, this, for Palace as well, because, you know, he's a great player, technically very, very gifted, has played for Spain at all levels. And interestingly, like all players in Spain, he's got a release clause in his contract, and the release clause, I think, is around £70 million. And Palace are getting him for an initial £21 million. And the reason they're getting him for such a great price is I think he's only got 2 years left on his contract, and he wasn't going to sign a new contract. But I still think Palace are going to bring other players in as well. They're in talks to sign Reece Nelson from Arsenal. Looked like he could be going to Fulham. He was on loan there last season, but Palace are in talks for him as well. Also, Manuel Akanji. I think Palace looking at centre-back options if Mark Gahey leaves in the next few days. Still a possibility that he could go. Could be his final game for Crystal Palace tonight, and what an important game that is in this playoff to get into the league phase of the Conference League. Hats off to him, because he's been a model professional, hasn't kicked up to fuss. He said, I'm here to play for Crystal Palace until things change. But interesting to see what Liverpool do in the next few days. How much do they want him?
Do you think this could be Mark Gahey's last game for the club tonight? Do you think he's going to be off to Liverpool?
I think it depends on if Liverpool make an increased offer. I think Crystal Palace would be willing to let him go because they don't want to lose him for nothing. And also what the player himself decides to do, because he's got the option of staying until next summer, and there are big, big clubs who would take him then. I'm talking about clubs like Real Madrid, Barcelona, the big, big European heavyweights would be interested in a deal for him then.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a reminder that Villarreal winger Yeremy Pino is set to undergo a medical with Crystal Palace today ahead of a £26 million move. Right, Good Morning Transfers is back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Ashley Williams will once again be with us in the studio for that. And you can see Transfer Talk is back tomorrow at midday. We'll have plenty of Premier League managers on the show for you as well. And for a full roundup, you can catch the transfer show at 4 and 7 p.m. Thank you so much, Carve. It's been a pleasure. Coming up on Sky Sports News, reaction to a humiliating night for Manchester United in the Carabao Cup.